Alright, let's talk about Xuan, because I know a lot of individuals will be looking at her, especially with how popular mono imaginary teams are now that Dan Heng has released. First and foremost, since Xuan is a preservation-based character and she's competing with the likes of characters like Shepard, Fire MC, and technically speaking healers like Luocha, Bailu, and Natasha, as well as Lynx, I do think her value does depend on how many of these units you have. If you have a Bailu and a Luocha, and you're probably getting a Lynx if you're pulling on the banner, and we all have a Natasha, then your value, or the value that Xuan holds for your account, is limited because you do have other survivability based options. Whereas if you hypothetically don't have a Bailu, skip Luocha, and only have a Natasha and then probably a Lynx, she holds a lot of value for your account because if you don't have a Japard and any other survivability based option, she's going to perform quite well considering you don't have anyone else to use. So I do want to make that clear. I think that as a supportive unit, she needs to be able to either mitigate and eliminate damage to such an extent to where you don't need to run a healer, or she needs to be able to mitigate it whilst providing you with enough buffs to justify running her as opposed to just a solid healer. Because the component of comparison is, if your Xuan does not mitigate damage to an extent to where you're still almost dying, then your options are either get a Japard or just put in a healer. And we're all getting a Lynx because if you pull off a Xuan, you are probably, very likely, almost guaranteed to get a Lynx. And so this means that if Xuan as a unit provides buffs, but the buffs that she provides are not significant enough to justify her slot on her team, then she is not worth it. I think that, hypothetically speaking, if she buffs, let's say, crit, her competitors are the likes of Bronya. As a 5-star, Bronya can be compared to her, and Yukong. And if she's not providing you or matching either one of those characters, and her defensive utility is not equal or equivalent to that of a dedicated preservation unit such as Japard or a dedicated healer, then why not slide her out in exchange? Because for a mono quantum team, you could run Sealy, Silverwolf, and this is obviously the WoYo variation of it with 5-stars everywhere. But you could run Sealy, Silverwolf, Xuan, and then you could slide in anyone else, even a Lynx. But if she as a preservation unit does not allow you to ignore the abundant slot that your team could otherwise have, then she, in my opinion, is not worth summoning for. Because comparatively, you have Mono Imaginary and Mono Ice. You have Qianqing, Pela, Japard as your solo sustain and survivability, and that last slot can be filled with legitimately anybody. Asta, you can throw in a Silverwolf in there, it doesn't matter. Whereas Mono Imaginary, you have Dan Heng, Luocha as your survivability, Yukong, and Tingyun. That team, in my opinion, is an example of what a mono elemental team should be, and if Xuan is competing with any of those to essentially build out that team for you, she needs to provide enough utility for you to justify pulling for it, because she does cost the same as any other 5-star. And I realistically would say that yes, you don't have the option of getting a Bronya, but we all eventually will be able to pick a 5-star from standard banner, and as a result of that, you can pick a Bronya. And so if she is not equivalent or comparable to Japard or Bronya, then she holds a lot lower value in comparison to legitimately any other character. And I understand, she's not a Harmony character, she is not meant to buff. But if she's meant to preserve and keep your team alive, then she's competing with Japard, an individual who has such a strong shield, you can forego, in a lot of situations, a healer. And that's why I always say damage mitigation is not the same as eliminating damage altogether. If you cannot and are not blocking me from receiving and taking any damage, and your form of healing or damage elimination is limited to and only occurs once per battle, your value and your job can be fulfilled with other characters. Hypothetically, let's say she has the ability to where your entire party is low on HP and she can heal you back up to full once per battle. That is less valuable than just having a healer, because I understand she can eliminate, or in a lot of cases lower, the need of a healer for your team. But in MOC, especially the later stages, bosses hit hard, and because there are multiple waves, you can face off against one boss who almost one-shots your team, and she heals you, and now for the rest of that battle, after that, even including the next couple rounds, or more accurately the next couple waves, you no longer have the safety net that she otherwise would give you. And so as a result, she is not worthwhile to slot in your team in that situation. I understand it's niche, but still it's something worth bringing up. So if she doesn't have the ability to buff you to an extent to where it makes her valuable, and if she's not competing or is trying to compete with the likes of Yukong and other characters for crit buffing, then what else does she have that she can otherwise bring to the table? Damage. If she is a preservation unit who is fighting with Japard and brings more damage than him, and I mean significantly more, let's be honest here, Japard users don't have the Japard dealing a bunch of damage. He's a defense killing character, he's not really meant to have attack and crit. unless you're just that guy. So if she brings enough damage to justify her slot, then it's a bit more competitive and she's a bit more valuable. But once again, this is a big if, and for a lot of people, I don't know if she's going to have that luxury, if she's going to have that ability. Now, she seems to be an HP scaling character, and that's fine and dandy. It means she's very tanky, and you can hypothetically slide on a Japara, Lycone, or Landau's Choice to increase her likelihood of being hit. That's great, and if she takes the damage and is able to tank it consistently, then she's good. But that doesn't necessarily make her a good character if she just is tanky, because you can do that with, once again, any other preservation unit, and we all have a free one, that being the MC. So here's my essential statement for you. If you're on the edge of summoning for somebody like Dan Heng over Fu Xuan, over leading for other characters, I think that Lynx is going to be a fine character, a fine healer. If she's a 4-star and you don't have other units to compete with her, get her regardless. I understand wishing for a 4-star is pretty bad. I'm a Genshin player. I know this extremely well. But if you're considering and are going for Fu Xuan anyway, it's a good idea to just stop once you get Lynx if you feel like you want one or the other. If you already have Luocha and the likes of other healers, you don't need either one of these characters because your team is very likely surviving anyway. If you want her because she's cute, go for it. I understand, that's what I'm going to be doing. And I will obviously be giving my thoughts once I have her, and I will be going for her signature Lycone. But I don't want people to get caught up in the idea that this character is a must pull, because yes, we have had this previously. That was Luocha, an individual who was abundant when we had only 2 other abundance characters, one being a 4-star that was free and the other one being a gacha 5-star. So I understand the desire to have a unit that can fit a role that is otherwise difficult to fulfill. But Fu Xuan's value can fall off incredibly hard later on, especially once you don't need as much survivability, especially once you have better healers or other healers that are actually built up. And so if she isn't providing value to your team, or if she's hypothetically Lycone dependent, where she needs her signature to be good, or she's a character who's Eidolon dependent, where she becomes really valuable at E1 or E2, then she's a bad unit. I don't like and I don't believe in the concept of pulling for a unit who's already bad or broken-ish, but they're fixed once you get their Lycone. Pull for who you like, not for who you need. You don't need a character right now. You should like them first and then be able to invest into them further, because clearing the content and clearing the game with units you enjoy and legitimately like the personality of is far better than just having the strongest or best units for that scenario. And let's be honest here, guys, we all know the meta and concept and conversation regarding Fu Xuan, once she's released, will be she's broken, she's amazing, she's a must pull, she's really good. Because that's what it's been essentially for every banner character. Every banner character has been amazing, you know, an amazing DPS or an amazing healer. We only had one, so he counts. And so I don't expect Fu Xuan to be any different. I just think that if you are on the fence and you have enough sustain and you have enough survivability, if you have multiple healers, if you have multiple shielders, it doesn't matter. She is less valuable. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying she's bad. I'm not saying she's trash. I think she's going to be relatively well received. I think overall she may be comparable to Japara. I just don't believe she's going to be able to keep your team alive unless you have the damage to dish it out to keep your team alive to begin with. And by that I mean she's going to be a lot better if you don't need that much protection to begin with, if you have the damage to clear but just need someone to keep you alive a little bit longer. Because hypothetically, if she has, let's say, 10,000 HP and she heals your entire party for 5% of her HP, her max HP that is 500 HP. That is not a lot of HP. So I would honestly say if you're looking for someone to keep you alive, maybe go for a healer, build them out with energy regeneration rate, and build them out with an energy regen Lycone. But if you just want this character because you think she's cute, hey, by all means go for her. I'm not saying don't pull this character. I'm just saying don't get dragged up and caught up into the hype that this character is a broken must-pull, must-have unit that's going to change your account forever. Because we got that with Luocha, now we're getting Lynx, and realistically, if you got Luocha, he's been good. I'm not gonna lie, he's a great unit. I don't have him, but I've still been able to clear content. I also understand I'm aware also people really won't value my perspective. But hey, that's just me. Tell me your thoughts down below. I understand I'm relatively speaking a Fu Xuan hater. I like this character. I think she's really cute. I enjoy her design. I will pull for her, and I do want Eidolons ideally because she's a cute unit, and I enjoy that. It's the same thing I did for Silverwolf. I just don't think that for a lot of people she's going to be worthwhile, and I do want to hold that opinion because I understand that the vast majority of people will be seeing videos telling them to pull this character, or at least enticing them to do so, and I don't think that's really fair. But hey, that's just me, and we can all differ. Either way, if you enjoyed, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.